evening, freedom fighters. Welcome to the midweek review of news. Where tonight we'll be joined by Eileen Newman from Falkirk and April May Thomson from Kilmarnock. Does Boris know about the party?
Better ask somebody else. I don't know if I can answer that. I better consult my dog first. I'm not really sure. It's terrible.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he did know about everything, and it's just another lie after lie after lie. But I'm trying to concentrate more on what's happening in Scotland really at the moment, because that's just a sideshow. It's just a farce that's happening down in Westminster, and Tories will have to do what they have to do, and we just take it from there. But whatever the outcome of these reports and the police, we know what we've got to do in Scotland to get rid of them. To get independence, that's the only way.
Let's focus on the things we can actually affect. And if a Prime Minister's in there doing things that are corrupt, what does it matter if he's changed, man? It's the same party, same rules. We're not down in Westminster to get rid of the Prime Minister. We're there to get out of the whole situation. Why are the SNP focusing in Parliament and the British public? I've heard the SNP politicians going on about Boris is so undemocratic. He's lied to the British public. You don't represent the British public. We've voted them for independence. They're not doing what we want. Don't see a big impact they're actually making. Who are they trying to convince here?
Well, it does actually have quite a lot to do with us, because depending on what happens down there is when they're going to call a general election. And if they call a general election, it could affect our election, because we're not allowed to hold one in the same year. So it's all got a knock-on effect. But aye. Enough about Boris. What's happening in Scotland? It looks like we're going to get the GRA bill put through in the third week in February. In spite of it being on page 37 of the manifesto and only about 6 lines. Anything to say about that, ladies? Given the fact that it affects you more than anybody else.
I'm just a bit concerned that there's so many of the public out there that really don't understand it, and not even aware of it. So my emphasis is on really trying to have as many conversations as we possibly can with the public, friends, neighbours, everybody. I mean, I even had a chat with the window cleaner last week, because he's got daughters, and he was obviously, when I sort of explained it in simple terms, just couldn't believe it. And I think this is what we're finding. People just find it all unbelievable. And of course the media are not helping either. I think we've got to get out there and make as much noise as we can, whether that be protesting, giving out leaflets and so on, and just do what we can, because if that goes through, it's just going to be appalling. And that's my view on it. And a lot of people think it's, we see from social media, a lot of people think it's that we're against transgender people, which is absolutely not the case at all. And we've just got to quash that idea, really, and make clear what it is about. Removing the word mother and breastfeeding, calling it chest feeding, and all these pronouns that the Scottish government is trying to introduce, or is going to introduce. And we've got to fight for it. And women, men, straight, gay, lesbian have all got to be fighting for this, and trans people as well. We've got to stop the idea of self-ID going through, because of the implications on us women losing their safe spaces. We've all heard these horror stories of what's going on in prisons. I mean, I myself was in a hospital ward with men. And there was one, just to give you briefly, there was one man that used to get up in the middle of the night, an old chap that was very disorientated, and he used to walk about with his pyjama bottoms off, and he used to go around all the beds. Now, okay, that's maybe an extreme case, but in that scenario, you just don't want to close your eyes and go to sleep. So I'm just concerned about women just being annihilated as and so I would want to fight for safe spaces, changing rooms, and the rights of children to be able to feel safe in changing rooms, and not have the extreme type of person who is going to exploit women's vulnerability.
tell
I
us your...
totally support the rights of all humans, the rights of trans people, and I can understand some of the backlash that has come for this and why people are seeing it as transphobic, right? But I think people are quite quick to jump to assertions because they're hearing the loudest voices now. I don't totally hold myself to any certain position when it comes to the GRA, but I can see the Scottish people have questions around this issue that we want to understand it before a parliament's enacting something. If it is a contentious issue, then let's have education around it. Let's speak about it, not just divide and conquer. We're going, oh, transphobes, or people are going trans rights activists now. We want the rights of all people. There are genuine concerns when it comes to violence within women's spaces, but there's also a lot of concerns when it comes to violence against trans people within prisons. Now, we've got to protect these people. When it comes to the SNP government going on, kidding on for the side of equality, this isn't equality. This is dividing the Scottish public. Let's have some information before you put something in and divide us. There's too much reliance on labels, things like that. Well, the Scottish government are the SNP, in fact, are actually pushing an agenda that it's ignoring women, ignoring the concerns of women. How can you say you're all for equality, all for bolstering up women, positive discrimination, but you're actually negatively discriminating the views of women? You're not letting them come in, speak their views because you want to label them as transphobes. No, sorry. Whether or not you have a point to make, regardless of what kind of language you want to use, you have a freedom of expression, and that's what I believe in. That's when it comes down to our conversations, Dave. Right. Freedom of expression is a huge thing, and if you're taking that away from a group to kid on your bolstering for another group, how is that equality? You've got concerns as a woman, Eileen, you have experiences, you should be able to speak that, not with the fear of being ostracised and maybe having somebody knocking your door because you've used the wrong terminology, and that's the SNP government's fault. We want education and freedom to speak these kind of things, not holding us down.
Well, I noticed the other day that, I mean, I've had a worry about the definition of transgender, because it used to be transsexual, and now it's transgender, which basically it's got about 57 different definitions. But now the latest one to be added to the trans umbrella is furries. It's people who want to dress up as animals, like with tails sticking out their arses.
I think the government are too busy involving themselves in labels and how people are defining themselves, when it should be about an individual. I don't agree in a lot of the government's intervention, and if they want to say what a trans person is or what constitutes us, who are they asking? Are they asking people in the trans community? Are they actually engaging people in the LGBT community? I don't think so. No, they're talking to maybe groups.
Eileen, you were the SNP for a while.
Yes, I was. I just wanted to say, just to add on to what April's has been saying, which I totally agree with. It's this suppression of information, not only the Scottish government putting a spin on what they want us to hear, and then suppressing and attacking us for anything they don't want us to hear. We see that not just with GRA, we've seen it with, for example, the jailing of Craig Murray because he dared to speak the truth, which is essentially what it was, what happened to Mark Hurst and so on. And there's a whole load of other areas where I feel that the Scottish Government is actually just trying to crush good conversations and just trying to get their agenda out all the time. And the press don't help with that.
The press were paid £3 million like your COVID money, and I think they got their money's worth.
You were asking about me being in the SNP, weren't you?
Yes, yeah.
What were you going to say about that?
You've now moved to Alba.
Yes.
And you've got council elections coming up.
Yeah. Well, I was an activist for the SNP. I was an office bearer, a grassroots person who trundled the streets in all weathers, followed the SNP around the country. So I was very active in that, but gradually became more and more disillusioned. And the thing that did it for me was the Alex Salmond trial. I actually attended that trial. It was just so shocking, and I could see immediately I could no longer be part of that organisation. So I left the SNP, and I left it before ALPA was formed, and I really was struggling. I'm thinking, well, who on earth can I vote for? There's nothing here in Scotland for me. But then ALPA came about, and joined ALPA, and I'm very active in that. And now preparing for council elections. I'm from the Falkirk area, and we're hoping to have 2 candidates standing. So we're preparing. We're having conversations already, going out, speaking to people. And I feel with the council elections, we've got to get our point that our party is, I mean, as the SNP says they want independence, but we want independence as a case of, it's got to be urgent for us, urgent. No more hanging about, no more false promises. Let's get moving on it. And because Scotland is just being taken apart, really.
Aye, so Eileen, you've recently joined the ALBA party, and you've got council elections coming up. How are you doing with that?
Well, we're preparing materials, we're preparing street stalls, and we're trying to get as many people involved as possible, and spreading the message, basically. I mean, we're not in campaign mode as yet, but we are doing a lot of preparation behind the scenes, having conversations everywhere, on the doorsteps, leafleting as well. And the one thing we're trying to promote is to ensure that everyone is registered to vote. That's very important, to make sure they're registered so they're not disappointed. A lot of people in rented accommodation, they move around a lot, and they can be missed out, really. So just try and hammer the message home, and then on the day, obviously, get out the vote. We're doing a lot of hard working, a lot of walking for miles, and getting our banners arranged and so on. And we're talking to people who are on the edge, who are SNP, but they're just a bit anxious about leaving, about coming across. But they're supporters, so they're supporters of ourselves, but they just haven't made the jump to become members. So they're kind of sitting on the fence. So there's a lot of work to be done with people like that.
Well, I've noticed just for this weekend, because I was at the All Under One Banner March for the first time in a couple of years, but the difference between that and the S2 March that I was on before, it's like the vitriol we got for the S2 one for standing with a couple of boards was pretty scary, and we were told there might be trouble voting Saturday, and there was none at all, in spite of the fact that we turned up with Prince Carrot and a rickshaw. So like it seems to be at least some of the SNP grassroots are now listening to the fact that maybe just there's some slight here.
Look at the different reaction, Dave, for the SNP speaker and the ALBA speaker.
Yeah.
The ALBA speaker at that march was focusing on independence.
Yeah.
The SNP speaker, no harm to him, but it was all about what the SNP have done and their promises. It wasn't actually about focusing on Indy, it's about Boris. I think that shows a big difference in the focuses between ALBA and the SNP.
I think it appears to me that no matter who you get listening, whether you listen to Ian Blackford or whether you listen to whoever, they've been given a little crib sheet and told, right, okay, stay in that and don't move off it at all, or you're not going to hear a TV camera again or something. So
I think some of them themselves might be frustrated because they want Indy, but at the end of the day, they're being held to a party line, and maybe it's a bit more restrictive than a smaller party or a newer party like ALBA.
I think it's, my experience from jumping from SNP to ALBA was, it was quite a difficult thing to do. I mean, I spent, as you know, Dave, I've spoken to you about this, I spent, did a lot of soul searching as to whether I wanted to do that or not. And it was almost like a grief period I went through, But then when I made the jump, immediately there was a weight off my shoulders. I knew I'd done the right thing. I became a founder member on day one, and there's no going back as far as I'm concerned. It was the right thing to do. And we've just got to keep plugging away. The independence for us is the priority.
What do you think of the recent claims for the SNP, the recent push for independence that they've come out with this week as an ex-member?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it's just it's laughable. It's pathetic now. That's the way I look at it. And I think we've got to make sure that the voters know there's some clear blue water between our thinking and the SNP thinking. We've got to say how we are different, because we're fed up, as Dave was saying, with all the carrots that have been
We want it now.
And that is just becoming insulting, quite honestly, really insulting. And it's just a case of having these conversations with people in a calm way. And yeah, we can go out and protest, but when we're talking to people, we're talking through the arguments, and we want to listen to their views as well. We've got pockets of from the different immigrant communities, Muslim community, the Sikh community, and so on. We've got also areas of extreme deprivation, and we've got people who are pretty well off. And we've got that issue too. People that are just comfortable in their own little thing, and they don't want they don't want to tip the balance in any way, because they've got a job, they've got enough money, they've got the house, they've got the car, and really they're not open to arguments, and they're frightened of losing money, about their pension being lost or being jeopardized. So, we're taking note too of all the issues that are collecting information about all the issues that people are raising, so that we can address that. And I'm hoping that quite soon Alba is going to be producing a little Alba book, but like the little blue book during the last independence referendum. And that's designed to help allay people's fears about independence. And it will go through things like currency and pensions, borders, and so on. I think once we get these distributed, we'll be a bit further down the line.
So I don't know what impact the wee blue book with the Albert book will have this time, because I think we're in a different world now. But I do believe that the council elections are going to be really important, because it only takes a couple of seats to change control of the council. If you look at how many there are unionist councils in Scotland, I think this is 12 unionist councils that are actually a coalition to put the SNP. So, April, you used to be a politician yourself.
If you can call it that. I wouldn't think I was a politician, no. I was in the Scottish Youth Parliament. It was a total and utter joke at the end of the day. I stood in a manifesto for independence. That manifesto was lost. Independence was apparently a political issue, couldn't be spoken about. But see, at the end of the day, the Scottish Youth Parliament isn't a recognised body in any sense. It's not even a lobby group. It is a poster campaign for maybe young career politicians or people who actually need to be given some sort of platform to feel like they're making a change. So, I wouldn't say I was a politician, but ended up leaving. But, I can understand, in some sense, some SNP politicians want Indy more than anything in the world. And I share a similarity in that sense with some people I've been speaking to have stood in manifestos for independence. But the difference between somebody like that and me who wasn't able to make a difference, some people feel that they're actually able to, some SNP politicians have been able to feel like they have been able to make a progression towards independence in a sense. And I was asking them, not name them, but through discussions of says we've been able to put a lot of work in for independence. I've been asking them what groundwork he's actually done for independence. Now, to them, their answer has been shown that Westminster policy is different from Scottish Government policy. To me, that's not enough, and I don't see that much of a difference at the end of the day. They've got an 11-point plan, right? Now, we've had this announcement this week that John Swinney's saying, just like we promised, we're going to have an independence referendum after COVID calms down, right? So now, how much does it have to calm down? Where are we in this 11-point? So we've already got your Referendum Scotland Bill put in place, the Scottish Elections Franchise and Representation Bill put in place, right? Now, all preparations were postponed. No money is being spent towards independence, or the planning towards independence. So we are maybe 0.5, maybe, waiting for this kind of draft bill for actually pushing for independence. But we've already had contact with Boris Johnson, letters sent between Nicola and Boris saying that he's not going to accept a Section 30, we're not going to have a referendum. So the last options that they're going to present Westminster with is either agree that the Scottish Parliament is the power or dispute it legally. Now, what is happening? They've promised it by 2023. I don't see any genuine action being put in place. So I don't know how MPs or MSPs or councillors win the SNP or anyone win the Scottish Government can feel like they're actually making a difference towards Indy, because I don't see anything apart from carrots. Funny how it's 100 days, 98 or however many to the council elections and they're dangling independence again. How many false promises do we need? I hope it's true, but I just hold very little faith. That's all. Faith isn't an effective way to get truth at the end of the day. For me, it is proof, it's evidence and it's groundwork. That's what we need.
Do you hope it's true, Eileen? Would you rather have it in 23 and just get it out of the way? Or would you rather wait till we get 60% in the polls, like a certain Mr. Wisher will tell us?
We want it quickly, but we need action now, because we need to prepare people. There's a lot of stuff to be done to prepare people. I wasn't living in Scotland during the last independence referendum, so I didn't have a vote. And we've got to remember there's a lot of new people that now have a vote, people that have come in, young people now of age to vote, and we've got to try and get them on board. So a lot of people, we tend to hark back as to what happened in 2014. In my view, as somebody who didn't have a vote then, because I wasn't living in this country, I think that that was when we should have started campaigning again. But instead, nothing's happened since 2014. And we've had a lot. The Scottish Government has had, how many years? 7 years to prepare the public for this. And absolutely nothing's happened. And now they're just trying to cram it in, and it's just all words. We know a Section 30 is not going to be given. And then we're likely to have endless court cases and appeals dragged out again. And where are we going to be? 2026, 2027? I mean, where? And by that time, we'll have lost it, because the British government are just dismantling everything. They're taking away our resources. They're changing the laws. They're interfering with everything. And it's going to be much harder for Scotland to become an independent country. Not only that, is that when we do become independent, I want a French government, and we've got to work as to how we're going to have that and how we're going to take Scotland forward.
If they want to lead by example in independence, they shouldn't be putting in policies that are turning half of the population against them. We should be using discussion, education to forward independence, not looking at the state they've left Scotland in right now.
So you've got to ask the question, or I ask myself the question constantly, do they really want independence? Or is there work going on behind the scenes along with the British government? And I think I choose to believe that is the case. There's lots that could be happening, and it's just not. COVID has been used for an excuse. Absolutely no reason that now for the government to hide behind COVID. And COVID shouldn't be the excuse, because they've got on with other things. Brexit's happened. And we've got to think about the cost of living. It's driving so many people down. All these things that are coming on board because of Brexit and things that haven't even hit us yet. The cost of living, a rise in council tax, and people are going to be on their knees, particularly in Scotland. And my fear is that apathy will set in. People just, they'll just get so disillusioned with politicians and politics. We've got to give people hope. And I think that's something that is gradually being lost with a lot of people, really.
There's apathy, but there's also fear. A lot of people are maybe scared to criticise the government, even within the Indy movement, are scared to put criticisms towards things that are impacting people in case they're targeted as a union or not Indy enough. If we have criticisms as a people, we should be able to speak them. You're totally right.
Yeah.
It's like over the next couple of months, some people are going to have a 400% rise in the fuel bills, and in 2017, Nicola Sturgeon made a promise that they were going to have a national energy company, and they killed it where the biggest sellout in Scotland was. It happened last week with that energy company. They took our oil, it was gone. We took something out the air and made a success of it, and they took that as well. We need to do something about it. Man, he's getting back on the streets, and if necessary, not just going up and marching nicely with a flag, it's necessary to get out there, start interrupting their lives, and then start paying attention.
I think of myself as a freedom fighter as well, and think of ourselves like that way, in that way, that we're fighting for our freedom.
Yeah.
Because we're being oppressed.
Yeah.
We're being oppressed, and we have to fight for our families, and for the generations that have gone in front of us and that have fought for freedom and not lived to see it. And I believe we've got a responsibility, those of us who feel strongly about it, is to get off our backsides and do something about it, and not worry about, oh, it's raining today, I don't fancy going out, The English government, as I call it, UK government, doesn't need exposing. It's there for everybody to see. I mean, it's just a joke now, and they're being laughed at all over the world. I mean, I try and tune into as many different foreign channels as I can, look at foreign newspapers, and Britain's just being seen as a joke now. So I'm not really interested in what they're doing down there. I'm trying to concentrate on what we can do in Scotland and get ourselves out of there. A lot of the rest of the world will welcome us with open arms. We know that. That's been proven, and it seems to me that our Scottish government at the moment isn't going to make it. They're not going to cut it, and they have done so much to divide the independence movement as well, to alienate voters. I mean, look what happened last Scottish parliamentary elections when we put the hand of friendship out to the SNP, and we were going round the doors saying vote Alba 1, SNP 2. So we were promoting SNP 1, Alba 2. We were trying to get people to vote for us and the SNP to get a supermajority, and that was just totally rejected by the leadership of the SNP.
I think it's, you mentioned the Scottish government. In 2007, Alex Salmond won his majority, and 24 hours later, the Scottish Executive had changed to the Scottish Government. And the last 7 years Nicola Sturgeon spent in turning it back into an executive. Doesn't feel like a government anymore.
No.
It's like, yes, she's a manager. Managers are a dime a dozen. You can have as many as you want. Like, they have probably the best political strategists in the UK in the last 50 or 60 years. Going begging, and what do we try and have them locked up? I don't understand it. Thanks for coming along, ladies. We'll show over our time in the first one. You'll probably never want us back again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. I've enjoyed it. Thanks, April. It's nice to meet you again.
You too.
One more wee thing. If you're angry at the way that the Scottish Government has been treating you, for whatever reason, if you're a woman who thinks your rights are being destroyed, if you're a kid at school who got the wrong exam results because you didn't want to say them, if you've got a gripe against the Scottish Government, on the 21st of February at St Andrew's House, which is the actual home of the Scottish Government, we're going to be holding a protest, a noise protest, and everybody's welcome along, come along. This is going to be making noise for the Scottish Government to say, yeah, to listen to us. So thank you very much for listening, guys.